It's the Donna Adelson trial. She's going to court for killing her ex-son-in-law Dan Markel, but she didn't do the dirty work herself. That was Sigfredo Tuto Garcia and Luis Rivera, a dental assistant's baby daddy, and his BFF, a high-ranking member of the Latin Kings. These hired hitmen are the key to finding the real gang calling the shots.
So Garcia hired you to do a murder, didn't he? You hired him.
No, Addison family.
We'll tell you how it all works, all that what it means for your weekend on the Comm Center. Wake up, America. It's the Comm Center with Drew Breezy. It's a TV show on the internet about two best friends who are called by a small-town sheriff to investigate a strange sound that makes dogs bark and babies cry all night. Of course, it's just a new album by Jelly Roll. I'm John. I'm an actual 911 dispatcher. I've been doing that job in my community for 10 years. Joining me, as always, is my podcasting partner with police benefits. That's Drew Breezy. It's a fake name. He's an authentic cop. Drew, this is part 4 of our Donna Adelson trial coverage. If you have missed the first 3 parts, go back and watch for part 1. It's going to give you the basic breakdown of what happened to Dan Markel in 2014, marked for death after a bitter divorce and custody battle. Part 2, we talked about the 911 call that went wrong and everything that came out of that. Part 3, we talked about the linchpin of the operation, the part that connected the top of the Adelson family to the henchmen at the bottom who actually carried out the hit on Dan. We're going to talk about the henchmen in this episode. Drew, it was good police work that caught these guys. Police have been under fire for not doing a good job at other investigations that we've covered this summer. Yeah. Is there anything you want to say to just praise the police before we get into these two guys, these two scumbags who did a terrible thing to Dan?
It's the rule, not the exception. This is exactly how a homicide investigation should go, and this is how it did go. If you'll notice, there were no blizzards or anything to impede them. That's about it. I mean, like, just, this is when people attack, first of all, 911 operators, or 911 dispatchers, like, we have a whole catalog full of videos for you to look at, and we explain why, they do the things that they do. And John has done it for 10 years. I did it for 3 years before I became a cop, and I ended up running a communication center. So, please, like, be curious, not judgmental. Like, I understand why you feel the way you feel sometimes, and why you put those hateful comments on there. But we can let our videos do the talking, John. We kind of created this channel so that we could clear up some of these misconceptions about 911 and about cops. So hopefully, like, giving you true crime from the inside will give you the opportunity to kind of see how you can solve a crime just by scouring the video from city buses and taking an eyewitness's thought of a green Prius. And
I just love the contrast, how much the Karen retrial, everyone was dogging the police for being corrupt and terrible, and there's so much hatred. But then you've seen people who love true crime when this case comes along, and the cops make sure to nail every single person that's involved, even though it's taken a long time to do. We're still going after everyone who was involved in Dan Markel's death. Then they're just the heroes. But let's break down this case. To mention or to talk about Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera, we've got to talk about the linchpin. So if you missed our last episode on Catherine Magbanua, go back and watch it, but otherwise we'll get you caught up to speed.
Wendy Adelson had a problem, and her problem was named Dan Markel. And the solution to that problem was Magbanua, Rivera, and Garcia to execute Mr. Markel in cold blood.
You said there was another vehicle that you were driving away?
Yes, and it's seen rapidly. It looks sort of like a Prius.
Police are able to identify a green Toyota Prius at the fitness center where Dan Markel worked out the morning he was shot.
He exercises, comes back out, goes to his car in the same vehicle and out of the parking lot, following behind the victim. We also find that car on video on a bus camera pulling into the victim's neighborhood or thereabouts shortly before the murder.
Tallahassee police are homing in on who was driving that green Prius away from the crime scene. Through meticulous police work, they traced the car to a rental lot in Miami.
And when they went and looked at who signed for the car to be rented, Luis Rivera and Sigfredo Garcia, Sigfredo signed it that he was the brother of Luis Rivera. Sigfredo Garcia was a low-level criminal, had some drug arrests down in Miami. Luis Rivera, however,
More of a hardened criminal.
more hardened criminal involved in a lot of gang activity.
Luis was an acknowledged member of the Latin Kings. He was a crone. He was a big deal in the Latin Kings. They rented it in their names with their phone numbers.
Real
with
smart.
a sun pass. They had their phones on while they were driving up there.
Of course, I'll say this about members of a gang. And I have a lot of interaction with gang membership through my former career as a correctional officer. Gangs are stupid. It's pretty much a way of tattooing on your body that whenever some shit goes down, you were probably involved in it or know someone who knows something about it if it's not you. So gangs have to be the stupidest thing that criminals ever invented. It's just, it makes police work a little bit easier.
Essentially, they just wrote a map for the cops.
Investigators were able to later use cell phone tower pings to show when phone calls were made from Sigfredo Garcia.
They placed Garcia near Dan Markel's neighborhood at about the time of the homicide using the cell phone data.
We also have the ATM video where on the day of the homicide, the two killers are seen driving through an ATM in that pine mica Prius.
Very unusual color.
Pine.
Police did a substantial amount of information to begin collecting a warrant to arrest these guys.
Who's pictured in this exhibit, Mr. Rivera?
That's me and Garcia.
Who's that in the foreground, closer to the camera?
That's me. I'm the director.
Rivera was a drug dealer and the leader of the local Latin Kings gang.
Luis Rivera is already behind bars in a federal prison outside Orlando. He'd been picked up in a big federal raid against the Latin Kings a year before.
The arrests definitely set a new chapter. It switches from the death of the grief and the sorrow and the sadness, and now you can go towards, looking at some hope in the sense that, maybe there'll be some answers.
Then, in October 2016, prosecutors announce a plea deal with Luis Rivera. They say he's ready to reveal how he says Dan Markel was killed.
Luis Rivera really broke open the case. He confesses.
He showed you a picture of Markell and said y'all were going to go kill it.
The Rivera plea deal was important because although he was a gang member and part of this murder, everything he said was corroborated by the other evidence.
What is your name, sir?
Luis Rivera.
Mr. Rivera, where are you from?
Miami. I'm Puerto Rican, but raised in Miami.
Right, and I see you're wearing a jail uniform. Have you been convicted of a felony?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times?
I don't remember.
Sound right?
45, yeah.
All right, and are you currently incarcerated?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you serving a sentence for both this case that we're here about and also a federal case?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's start with the federal case. What is the nature of that charge?
Conspiracy to RICO with the Latin Kings.
Conspiracy, RICO, like a racketeering?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's related to your involvement with the Latin Kings?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a gang?
Gang, family.
That's so prison.
Who's that in the passenger seat?
Garcia.
Sigfredo Garcia, whose friends call him by the nickname Tuto, has some history with breaking the law. In fact, he's got 22 arrests going back to when he was a teenager.
Garcia jumps out. He goes around the car where he's driving. Shot twice, got in the car. He left. He called Katie. We had dumped the burn. I think he called her. And he said, everything is done. Make sure you have my money. I'm on my way.
There's a lot of speculation, a coincidence or two, but nothing that's going to put my client in Tallahassee with a gun responsible for this murder.
I love it. Like, I really want to just do a montage of defense attorneys after everybody jumped on Alan Jackson's. Like, because there are a bunch of people, there are a bunch of defense attorneys that are like, they are grasping at straws. They got nothing. There's one guy that's like, they're just trying to catch lightning in a bottle. And like every one of them is Guilty, prison for life. Guilty, prison for life.
Hey, before you do anything else, make sure you're doing all those YouTube things. Make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe to keep up with the Comm Center. We answer 99.9% of comments, so make sure you leave yours below.
They apparently used a revolver to not leave shell casings around. Like, these are the things that go into the premeditation part of, this whole conspiracy. Like, they thought it through. They did pre-surveillance. They, one jumped out while the other stayed in the driver's seat. They used a handgun that didn't eject shells, so they wouldn't have to look for any shells when it was time to go. They dumped the gun on the way back in a lake somewhere. It's all these things that lead up to the premeditation.
All right, so Garcia hired you to do a murder, didn't he?
Yes, ma'am.
And who hired him?
The Adelson family.
Who gave you the money?
Garcia.
Did you and Sigfredo Garcia go out that night when you got back to Miami?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember where you went?
We went to a bar.
Was Catherine Magbanua with you that night?
No, I don't think so.
Do you know where she went that night?
No, I don't know.
All right. The next morning, is that when you saw her again?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Tell us what happened the next morning.
The next morning I woke up, I went to the barber shop, and she went to my house and took the money.
She had the money at your house?
Yeah.
And did you go home and get it?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you go home with some purpose?
Purpose to pick that money up.
Yeah. Why were you worried about the money?
I was worried about my baby mama taking it.
You were worried about your baby mama taking it?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that Jessica, the one we saw in the
Yes, ma'am.
photo? So if she'd seen that money,
If she would have seen it, she would have probably took it. But she never seen it.
how much money was in there?
37. I think it was 35.
35,000. And how was it packaged?
100 staples.
All $100 bills?
Yes, ma'am.
And what do you mean by staples?
They were all staple. It was $1,000, each $1,000 staple in the top corner.
Within a month, Garcia had purchased an 84 Chevy Monte Carlo and a 2000 Nissan Maxima and a 97 Honda motorcycle. Rivera, for his part, bought a 2003 Suzuki motorcycle a week after the murder took place. And there was a Facebook posted that was in December of 2014. It shows both guys standing by their new bikes.
And if you wondered why he wanted to buy a 30-year-old Monte Carlo, it's because that thing's a pimp mobile.
It is. I'm sure he tricked it out. There's no question about it.
You were paid $37,000 in your role in the murder of Professor Markell, right?
Yes.
You were supposed to be paid $35,000.
Yes.
Sigfredo Garcia, the shooter, gave you an extra $2,000, right?
Yes.
Your understanding was that the total payment was $100,000, correct?
Yes.
And that it was a one-time payment.
Yes, sir.
And you were told that you, Sigfredo, and Katie were hired by a lady to do a murder for hire, right?
No. I was told by the lady.
No, I'm sorry. Let me slow down. You were told by Sigfredo that all of you were hired by a lady to do the murder, right?
Yeah.
That you were doing it so that she could get her kids back.
Yes, sir.
And all of your information came from Sigfredo Garcia and Katie, correct?
Sigfredo, yes, sir.
Okay. And all of Sigfredo's information, to your knowledge, came from Katie, right?
Yes, sir.
Everything you knew about the murder plot came from Sigfredo.
Yes, sir.
According to you, Katie was the mastermind. Early June, Sigfredo told you that you were going to do a robbery, right?
Yes, sir.
Not until on the way up did you find out that you were going to do a murder.
Yes, sir.
Before the July trip, you didn't want to go, right?
Yes, sir.
And to convince you, Sigfredo again told you that you were just going there to scope things out.
Yes, sir.
During the second trip, the day before the murder, you drove by Professor Markell's house. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
And you testified that at some point after you arrived at Markell's house, after noon on the 17th, you saw a woman and two kids walking on Trescott by the house.
Yes,
right?
sir.
And the woman looked at you as the Prius passed and immediately got on her phone.
Yes, sir.
You testified that you asked Sigfredo what was up with the lady. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
And Sigfredo responded that that's her. That's the guy's wife. That's the one that wants the kids back.
Yes, sir.
You asked Sigfredo what the lady was doing there on Trescott with the kids.
Yes, sir.
And Sigfredo responded that she came there to make sure that everything was all right,
Absolutely.
meaning all right with the plan.
Yes, sir.
As you sit here now, you're aware that the woman and the kids on the street was not the same lady, right?
I don't know if that was her or not, but she looked at my car.
It's possible that Sigfredo lied to you, right?
Who knows?
Another lie that Sigfredo and, strike that, Your Honor. Your understanding is that the money for the murder would be paid by the lady, right?
Yes, sir.
Again, your understanding came from Sigfredo.
Yes, sir.
You didn't go with Katie to get the money, right?
No.
So you don't know where she got it from?
Nope.
And you don't know what happened when she got it?
Nope.
Sigfredo never told you that he and Katie got more than $100,000 the night of the murder, did he?
No.
That would make sense why you got an extra $2,000, right?
Maybe.
And Katie never told you that they got more than $100,000 the night of the murder, right?
Nope.
Sigfredo never told you that he and Katie were getting paid every month after the murder, right?
Never knew nothing about that.
You didn't know that they were getting paid $3,000 a month.
No.
They made a chump out of him.
Yeah.
I guess that explains the reason why he's this tough-ass Latin King's family member, but also a big snitch.
I asked him why you want to kitty cat, because the lady wants her 2 kids back.
And Drew, doesn't it strike you as somewhat interesting that they're talking, he keeps making mention of the lady.
Yeah.
He makes mention of the lady because she wants her 2 kids back, and she wants to leave Tallahassee and go to South Florida. No names are being mentioned, but he said at one point that he had come across, that he had seen the woman with the 2 kids.
Right. Well,
doesn't this strongly imply that Wendy's involved or that Wendy knows about it? Like, that's the one thing that's really interesting about this case, is that we're working our way up the food chain. So we know that Rivera and Garcia get convicted, Magbanua gets convicted. We know that Charlie Adelson gets convicted, and he's sort of the middle manager. And now they're working on going after Donna. I mentioned this to you in a prior episode, but isn't it possible that part of the reason why it's taken 11 years is because they're working this case like a set of dominoes, that one domino falls on the other? And, Luis Rivera was the person at the bottom of the food chain. He obviously took a plea agreement. They led to the convictions of Magbanua.
My name is Catherine Magbanua.
And Sigfredo Garcia, and then Charlie. And now we're going after Donna. You've said before that you think Wendy is innocent, but is it possible at all that Wendy really is not as innocent as she seems?
It's possible. Anything is possible. What I was judging was her reaction when the police talked to her about after Danny was shot.
There was a shooting at your ex-husband's home. Daniel, has been taken to the hospital. He's not going to survive.
Oh, God.
Okay? Well, before we get into everything, I have to establish where you were and who you were with and so forth.
Let's do a whole episode on Wendy.
Yeah, we'll do a whole episode on Wendy, but here's what I'm thinking along these lines. It's quite possible she's involved. It's quite possible she had no clue. But look, there's no honor among thieves. Okay, so Sigfredo is really kind of working this angle with Catherine, right? And what he needs to do is insulate the mother of his children, and the one who is the go-between. She's the money. Like, if anything happens to her, the money stops. So he has to insulate. So it wouldn't be I don't think out of the ordinary for those two, Sigfredo and Catherine, Katie, to concoct a story that, like, we don't talk about. We're not going to talk about where the money's coming from. As far as you know, it's a lady in Tallahassee that wants to get her kids, that wants custody of her kids and to move them to South Florida. So we're going to put all this on her. And she doesn't even know. So, like, they don't want this guy. And now, in hindsight, it's obvious why they didn't want him to know. He's sitting there in a set of handcuffs and an orange jumpsuit telling three.
They knew that he would flip on them.
They knew that he would flip because he was the lowest level. He ended up getting 19 years in prison for his cooperation. Everybody else got life, life plus 30, life, you know. So I think they kind of knew, like, look, we don't want to tell him anything. Plus, he was already under, he was already in trouble because of the previous RICO. Because of,
well, yeah, he said that he didn't even know the number of felonies that he's under. This guy he's a career criminal. They don't care at that point. It's all just bona fides to put on their rap label resume.
Yeah. So I'm going with the no honor among thieves, that they were lying to him. They were telling him enough to, you know, help him draw him into the conspiracy a little bit more. But he was going to be benefiting monetarily. They had to explain where the money came from, and
it's possible that he's lying. Like when he says, "Oh, I just thought we were driving down there to scope things out." You know, that's his way that he doesn't you know, get roped in deeper.
He could be lying. I could tell you though, his testimony on the stand was, in my opinion, what do I got to lose? He's just, I think he's playing a calculated game. I don't think he's probably looked to I don't think he's a crown anymore.
No.
Like,
well, I mean, you know, there's Latin kings on the outside and there's Latin kings on the inside. You get a whole new kind of juice when you go in and you're a convicted murderer. And you know, even if you do a deal, people don't really know about that or care about that so much because you start rebuilding your new reputation on the inside.
That's good. That's great insight from the inside of the prison. By the way, when you stop or when you talk to anybody that's in organized crime, whether it's, you know, like traditional organized crime or gang affiliation or whatever, that's the most common line that they use is, no, we're a family. We're not a gang. We're a family. We're just a group. We're a civic organization. We're a chorus. Like, you know, they'll use any terminology other than gang because they know the federal enhancements, or even in some states, the state enhancements. If you're found to be in conspiracy with other people from that gang, the whole gang can be taken down for that. So they just kind of tend to downplay the word gang.
They downplaying is really what they know how to do. I've talked to a lot of snitches and they always know how to downplay their own involvement. In fact, you know, one thing that I used to get asked a lot when I worked at the prison was, you must have a lot of people who tell you that they're innocent, right? And like, no, that actually doesn't happen at all. But the way they have of rationalizing is, I once had an inmate tell me, the only reason I'm in prison is because I knew a guy that was trying to get himself murdered. Like, okay, so you were involved in a plot of attempted murder is what you're telling me.
He just really was trying hard.
He knew someone that was trying to get himself murdered.
And he was really good at it.
Yeah, so I can imagine that Rivera and Garcia would say that, you know, the only reason they were in prison is because they knew a lady who had a husband who was trying to get himself murdered.
John, do you have an opinion about using somebody with 5 or he couldn't even remember the number of felonies as the star witness in a case like this?
Well, you know, you talk about how when you would interview people and they would, in a last episode, you talked about how people's body language would be discordant with what they were saying. Somebody in Luis Rivera's situation is a consummate liar. He's a connoisseur of lies. He knows how to lie all the time, and his lies are a little bit more nuanced. And the problem that I have with it as someone who is a correctional officer and I interact with these guys every day, I've said this on a previous episode of Comm Center before, is that there's one guaranteed way that you can tell that an inmate is lying to you. And it's if they're opening their mouth and talking.
Right.
At no point to me does he come across as trustworthy. I know that he is rolling on his buddy and Catherine Magbanua. and he's exposing all these things. But I know that what he's saying is we're still not getting the whole truth. And he does have a little bit of an attitude the whole time, where that attorney, if you remember, was asking him like, is it possible that this was happening this was happening, about the money? He just goes, who knows? He just he almost answers like a good fellow or something. He just sounds like a mafia member the whole time. So I never really trust him, but you have to get a jailhouse snitch sometimes to unravel these others. So I understand why it has to be done, but I don't like it.
And the defense can certainly ask, like, hey, are you doing
Did
this?
you receive a deal from the prosecution? Are you being induced? Yeah.
But you know what? We had a very significant jail escape case that I worked, and the informant in the case, because I'm telling you, like, you've got to get to the root, you've got to get to the heart of the matter of why the informant or the person that's testifying is doing what they're doing. Because if you come to find out he's doing it just to get a better sentence, you can't really trust all of his testimony. But this guy that came forward with the information about the people that were getting ready to escape from the jail, what he wanted was, he was being released early, and he wanted sobriety. He didn't want to be released early. He wanted to be released into a residential drug treatment program. He didn't want to be released out into the wild. And there was so much red tape to get this guy help and to get him into recovery. And he had worked so hard because he was trying to get his kid back, that he was like, I just want residential recovery. I just want.
But if he's court ordered to be there, the state will pay for it. He could take himself, couldn't he?
Yeah, I think the problem was, or the issue was, his willpower. Like, he knew the minute he was set free that without the toolbox that he was about to get and on the state's dime.
See how skeptical I still am, though, that I'm just like, well, you could go get your own help. You just don't want to pay for it.
I totally get it, but he also could have just held that information, and we would have ended up with 2 or 3, deceased detention deputies, because they were legit, and they would have smuggled in a gun into that jail. It just the way that case worked out. That's a different case for a different day.
Yeah. Interesting. This case, we're moving forward, though. We've gone through the bottom of the food chain. We talked about the henchman who did the deal. We've talked about Catherine Magbanua. Now it's going to get interesting, because it's not that this stuff's not interesting. Well, we need to get to the middle and to the top of the conspiracy. We need to start talking about Charlie Adelson, who in my mind is kind of the mastermind. We need to talk about Donna, the paymaster. What did she know and when did she know it? What was her role? How did she feel about Danny? She's definitely, I think, the emotional engine of this case. You have to be mad at someone, particularly a family member, in order to kill them. I think she's the one that really drives a lot of the emotions. She's probably the one that riled up Charlie into putting a lot of these things in motion. We're going to talk about Charlie. We're going to talk about Donna, and we're going to talk about ultimately Wendy. And we're going to want to take your theories as to whether or not you think she was involved, because there's a huge amount of people out there that do believe that she was involved. And, Drew, as a detective, when particularly in an acrimonious divorce or child custody disputes going on, the person who has the most to gain is often the romantic or domestic partner. It's just a numbers game. It's just the odds at that point that they're the ones who are involved. So it'll be interesting to see what we uncover going forward. But make sure you go back and check out those other videos that we already did as we move forward in this incredible series that we're doing this summer. Drew, any final thoughts on these guys before we move on?
I'm really looking forward to talking about the bump and using the experience I had with wiretaps and something we called tickling the wire.
We're going to tickle the wire. Let's do the bump next time, and we're going to talk about how it relates to Charlie and Donna. Guys, come back here. Check us out on social media. Watch out our videos. Check out these right here. These are some great videos. Parts 1, Part 2, Part 3. Make sure you watch those so you get caught up, so that as Donna Adelson's trial is coming to head here in August, that you'll be informed. Drew?
You said it best.
I'm going to let the episode end on that absolute awkward note.
I don't even know where that came